Attacks on Ukrainian cities intensify. As Russian forces hit the city of Kharkiv, Ukraine says as many as 2,000 civilians have been killed so far.
They have an order to erase our history, to erase our country, to erase us all.
Boris Johnson accuses Putin of war crimes. We report from inside a bunker where terrified Ukrainians seek shelter from the missiles above.
I want ending this right now, because people dying.
Back here, a rare show of unity in the Commons and applause for the Ukrainian ambassador. But there is pressure on the Prime Minister to tighten the squeeze on Russian oligarchs, including Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich, who has put the club up for sale. Plus the family who found sanctuary in Ireland.
This is the ITV Evening News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. Vladimir Putin stepped up his ruthless onslaught of Ukraine and its people today as key cities became the focus of Russian attacks. The fighting has been fiercest in the east and south, with heavy shelling reported in Kharkiv and Mariupol. And as the bombardments appear to become more indiscriminate, the human cost is rising, with more than 2,000 civilians said to have been killed so far. Tonight, 141 countries condemned Putin's war at the United Nations. From Kyiv, our Europe editor James Mates sent this report.
For those familiar with Chechnya or Syria, this is very much the Russian way of war. City centres, here Ukraine's second city of Kharkiv. Of no military value, utterly devastated by indirect, indiscriminate fire. This, a university building. Survivors pulled from the rubble who had no part in this fight. In Kharkiv, most are Russian speakers, the very people Putin preposterously claims to be liberating. Anna Paraskevova, who spoke to us on Skype, has lived through 7 days of this.
It's been hell, literal hell. So that's it. People are really frightened. People just lost pretty much everything. There was not much to begin with. We're not the richest folk here in Ukraine. My father lives also in Kharkiv. He's in another part of town. He lives there right now. So we just call him every time there's an explosion to ask him if he's alive, and that's it. I'm fine. Yeah, sorry. No crying. I'm all right.
If you wonder what life is like under bombardment, watch this. He did survive this, but who knows how. Around Kiev, to both east and west, there are towns that Russia has decided to destroy in order to liberate. This is Borodyanka, that lies on the approaches to Kiev. And this Irpin, closer still to the capital. If this is now the plan, to use artillery and missiles to steamroll through residential areas towards the center of the city, then pity poor Kiev and what is coming. Maybe only peace talks can save it. President Zelensky's negotiators are still meeting the Russians, but he believes nothing can move forward without a ceasefire.
First of all, everybody has to stop fighting and to go to that point from where it was beginning. Yes, it began 6 days ago. And if those side is ready, it means that they are ready for the peace. If they don't ready, it means that you're just, wasting time.
While his army fights, his people are putting their bodies in the way of advancing Russian columns here in the southern town of Enerhodar, home to Europe's largest nuclear power station. And here in Starobelsk in the east, on the day the Ukrainian government says 2,000 civilians have already been killed, just how brave is this? This evening it's the turn of the southern city of Mariupol, holding out, but maybe not for much longer. This is an ugly, ugly war, and it's not nearly over yet.
James is in Kyiv tonight. James, how Kyiv and Mariupol suffering terribly today. Could both fall soon?
They could, and if they do, it'll be because of the sheer weight of arms against them, not because they lacked fight. You know, 8 years ago, I spent a lot of time in eastern Ukraine during the pro-Russian uprising. A lot of time in both Kharkiv and Mariupol, got to know both cities well. They are both predominantly Russian-speaking. In both, separatist rebels tried to ignite the same sort of uprising that they'd started in Donetsk and Lugansk, and they failed in both cities. Both of them made a conscious decision to commit their future to Ukraine. Vladimir Putin clearly decided that having failed to bully them into Russian control, he's now going to do so through bomb and through bullet. And of course, it's the people there who are suffering terribly for the choice they've made.
All right, James in Kyiv, thank you very much. 7 days into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Moscow claims 498 of its servicemen have died in the war. According to our Ministry of Defence, Russia has taken control of the areas marked in red. The key battles now are for Ukraine's cities, and there's been intense fighting in Kharkiv, where Russian paratroopers have reportedly landed. Further south, the mayor of the port city of Mariupol says there have been mass casualties following relentless Russian shelling. Well, west of there, the Russian military claims it's taken control of Kherson, although this has been disputed, and American officials say a huge military convoy is still thought to be somewhere north of Kyiv. Well, in the capital, there is growing tension about the battle which lies ahead. Its streets are largely empty, with many people heading underground in search of safety. Our global security editor, Rohit Kachru, spent last night with some of those sheltering in a bunker, a mix of pride and fear reverberating between its walls.
We're beneath the silent streets of Kyiv. An underground shelter, a sanctuary, where there is no one way to respond. As troops inch closer above us.
I want ending this right now. Because people dying and children dying.
Midnight approaches. The children are still up. For them, war is just another strange thing happening on this strange day, but they're old enough to feel pride. Their parents feel much more than just pride. A mother's lips tremble as she tells me how frightened she is. And that voice off camera? That's her son beside her saying, "Mum, don't be afraid." Before bedtime, prayers for the Ukrainian soldiers defending the city. Putin's troops now just a few miles away.
Це наша земля, це наші діти, і ми маємо право жити в своїх домівках зі своїми рідними. І ці люди не повинні страждати всі. Угомоніться. Немає слів просто.
Тут осталося. І вийшло так, що розсоєдинили мене з дітьми.
Ми зараз всі так.
Despite her despair, Angela knows her heartache is just one story of one family in one city in Ukraine.
Ведет защиту неба. Нам нужно, чтобы небо было.
Morning.
They wake to find their city still under Ukrainian control.
Прячемся, потому что бывают налеты.
Nadezhda is the eldest person staying in the bunker. She senses echoes of the Second World War. She has the memories from then and more.
Я, например, пережила уже, сейчас вот это считаю Вторую войну, в 45-м году я в лесу пряталась. Или в погребе. И ногу перебили, и я до сих пор ощущаю.
As the curfew ends, a release into the unknown. So some stay behind in the place where the sirens can't be heard, the explosions can't be seen. Rohit Kachru, ITV News, Kyiv.
While many residents remain in Ukraine's cities, some people have escaped the conflict. More than 870,000 have fled the country since Russia invaded, with over half of them heading to Poland. At Kochova, near the border, Lucy Watson met some of those forced into a desperate situation and whose needs are many, from food and a place to sleep to medical assistance.
What words can a mother use to comfort her 4-year-old child? They are safe from the bombs and the missiles, but her tiny body is being ravaged by cancer. And this makeshift medical centre in Kochova cannot give her the treatment she needs.
We need help in Poland.
Martin Kutcher has been looking after her, but can't understand her documents.
We have Ukrainian papers and we don't know the history of her treatment. She needs to be treated in hospital. The hospital is about 400 kilometers from here.
The fragility of life is being protected in the most basic of ways. A small clinic set up only days ago in the middle of a shopping centre, in the midst of thousands.
This man has just come across the border and just been brought straight into this medical unit. Some of the medics here are working 24-hour shifts and then only having a 2-hour break before they come back again to treat as many people as they can.
Each family, each face had a life in Ukraine, a job, a home. Now they have this.
I want to live in my country. I love my country. Ukraine is my home.
Julia is from near Kyiv. She doesn't know when she'll see her husband again. Her daughter Catherine is 11 months old.
My husband are military man. I don't afraid for me, but I afraid for my daughter and my husband. Half of my soul here and half of my soul there.
Here, mothers bravely play like all is well, and hug like nothing has changed. But every day, Julia waits for her husband to message, "I'm alive." Lucy Watson, ITV News, Poland.
Well, later in the programme, the family who fled Ukraine and made it to Ireland. Plus, the price of oil surges. Just how much more could you pay at the pumps? Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. There was a rare standing ovation in the Commons today as MPs applauded Ukraine's ambassador as he watched from the gallery. Boris Johnson said strikes on innocent Ukrainians amounted to war crimes, but he faced calls to do more to help, including putting a tighter squeeze on powerful Russian oligarchs, among them Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich, who in the past hour confirmed he wants to sell the club. Our political correspondent Carl Dinham reports.
The Prime Minister brought a visitor to the House of Commons today, and no sooner had his presence been announced
I want to welcome to our gallery the Ukraine ambassador
than MPs had leapt to their feet. Applause here is rare. It is against the rules, but this was a lengthy and heartfelt ovation, acknowledged by Vadim Pristaiko in the gallery above. Afterwards, the Prime Minister directly linked the Russian president to possible war crimes in Ukraine.
What we have seen already from Vladimir Putin's regime in the use of the munitions that they have already been dropping on innocent civilians, Mr. Speaker, in my view, already fully qualifies as a war crime. And I know that the ICC prosecutor is already investigating.
But he is under pressure to move more quickly on sanctioning individuals like Roman Abramovich, perhaps the country's best-known oligarch.
Mr. Speaker, Roman Abramovich is the owner of Chelsea Football Club and various other high-value assets in the United Kingdom. He's a person of interest to the Home Office because of his links to the Russian state and his public association with corrupt activity and practices.
And in the last few minutes, Mr. Abramovich announced he is selling Chelsea, saying, in the current situation, I've therefore taken the decision to sell the club, as I believe this is in the best interest of the club, the fans, the employees, as well as the club's sponsors and partners. He said he would not ask for any of the loans he has made to the club he has owned for 19 years to be repaid, and would donate all the net proceeds of the sale to a foundation for all victims of the war in Ukraine. A war which is already changing the world around us in unexpected ways. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
It was announced today that Russian and Belarusian athletes will be able to take part in the Winter Paralympics in Beijing as neutrals. The International Paralympic Committee said they will compete under the Paralympic flag when the Games start on Friday, but will be excluded from the medal table. And ASOS is stopping sales in Russia. The fashion giant said it's neither practical nor right to continue to trade there. Other companies which have stopped trading in Russia include Apple, Google and Nike. Well, the war has continued to push up oil prices. Crude oil has hit more than $110 a barrel today, a 7-year high. That means prices at the pumps could soon soar even higher. The RAC warned a litre of unleaded could cost £1.55. Diesel is likely to reach at least £1.60 a litre. Well, economics editor Joel Hills is here. And Joel, it's not just oil prices which are getting pushed up.
No, look, the economic fallout of the war has reached British shores. It was always going to. Russia is one of the world's biggest oil and gas exporters. Ukraine produces wheat and barley in abundance, often referred to as the breadbasket of Europe. It's little surprise that commodity prices have spiralled higher. The price of natural gas surged today. Cornwall Insight calculates that if it remains at this level for the next few months during the conflict, that's a big if, of course, the average energy bill in the UK will rise by over £1,000 a year in October. That's brutal. The war is squeezing living standards here. Meanwhile, in Russia, the financial system's being pummeled by Western sanctions. The ruble has weakened. We've seen companies withdrawing, as you were talking about earlier. Grant Thornton, the accountancy firm, the latest to leave. Lots of others are under pressure to do exactly the same. There's also evidence that Russia is struggling now to sell its oil. Banks, shipping companies have decided the risk is too great. A recession looms in Russia.
All right, Joel, thank you. And finally, while countless lives have been turned upside down in Ukraine, there are still stories to inspire hope. 5-year-old Leonid Shapoval's leukemia treatment was stopped when war broke out and his family fled. But after finding sanctuary in Ireland, his future looks a little brighter. Louise Scott has a story.
5-year-old Leonid has endured a long journey to Ireland from his home in Ukraine. Doctors said they could no longer treat him due to the Russian invasion, and so the family were forced to escape.
There was 20 kilometers of the queue of the cars, but luckily the police was very kind to them once they found out was the condition they need in. They got the sirens and they took them 20 kilometers to skip the queue.
The Irish government has waived restrictions for fleeing Ukrainians, allowing them to stay with their Irish family.
I'm very lucky boy.
I hope he'll be happy and will be free.
Leonid was due to have a bone marrow transplant in Kyiv. It's hoped his treatment can now continue in Ireland.
I hope that he gets cured and lives a very happy, long life.
This family have left their home with nothing but the hope that this journey can help save their son. Louise Scott, ITV News.
And that is all for now. Julie is here with the news after the football on ITV tonight, but from me and all the evening news team, goodbye.